think the main change has really been in terms of consumption. They really set a standard for what on-demand consumption means, for what we expect from catalogs, sorry, from recommender systems, from levels of personalization, and from just different types of curation. And I think that really shifted the way a lot of European broadcasters are also now looking at setting up their own VOD services because of these different shifts. And of course, this trickles down into distribution patterns and production patterns. And the fact that they've been involving themselves more and more in the production of European content, that also, of course, has a big impact on the European production landscape, let's say. They are working with local producers, local broadcasters as well. A lot of the times they have to do this, but also a lot of the times we have local, let's say, broadcasters who are not necessarily happy about the state of this, because then creators will not be available or technical staff will not be available anymore to work with broadcasters. They would prefer to work with big services. Also in terms of creators, if you think I could have a chance for the whole world to see my work on Netflix, then maybe I will be more tempted to work with Netflix than to work with a local broadcaster. So there's all of these different levels that are interconnected, but they also have ramifications for all of these very different levels of the media landscape, let's say. I think it's complicated. I think it's a good step forward in trying to find a level playing field. But again, I think if you're trying to support more local producers through the investment obligations and to support more local creative through the investment obligations, that can work, but to a certain extent that might come to the disadvantage of specific, let's say, broadcasters. Or maybe distributors are not always happy with the way the quota is set up, just because it will be just ticking some boxes without necessarily going forward into what it actually means for the consumption or for exposure diversity, or how it affects windowing and all of these other different things. So it, in a way, it is a good step, but I think it needs to be still worked on to find kind of a sweet spot that will work for European services, or European creators, because I think that's who we're trying to protect here. I also think the prominence and discoverability part is a very important one, because I think that really is very much needed for the quota. The quota is really not enough. And I think that's something that we should definitely look into more, and that could really be something that could gain also, and go towards and promote more diversity in terms of consumption as well, and not just distribution. I think we've seen a lot of changes through the years. So I started actually researching the offerings of the US VODs back in 2016, and then the weight of mostly US and UK content was really high. And we've seen increasing diversity, especially for the big services. So now I do see that the offerings of Netflix, of Amazon, are definitely more diverse. They have more European titles as well, not so much for the newer entries. So when we're looking at the catalogs of Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, they're still quite US based. But it also maybe then is a question of quality of content or diversity of genre, which is something that we're seeing and that is quite interesting to look at. Really looking into more niche, daring concepts, sci-fi, horror, all kinds of things that maybe were not so safe before, and that is something that's really taking up. Teen genres as well, really taking up as well. the discussion of quality maybe is still something to be looked into. We're still maybe seeing the difference between how we think of what HBO means and Max content and what Netflix content means, and I think there's still a big gap there. But then that really depends on, okay, what audiences want and what people are looking for. So it's, yeah. It's not really something that I've looked into a lot. I find a lot of their discourse a bit contrary to what we find in our own research. But for example, looking at a lot of the discourse and a lot of the promotion that Netflix does around their diversity strategy or their supporting emerging talent and early creators, which is happening to an extent, but not necessarily to the extent that it feels like it's more of a marketing discourse than really a strategy that they truly care for and truly look to implement. So I think that's somewhere where it's interesting to still look at a bit deeper. Other than that, I don't really, I think it also depends in different contexts. I think from country to country, it could be that the message is either more focused on the local or less focused on the local. It really depends on what the audience is. And I think they really are very good at marketing. So they will definitely look better into what those markets want and really say the things that I think they know they're in a way expected